So welcome to the call today with a very small Vincent, but it's only that picture. He is not so small in reality. In reality, he is a really great man. Yes. Thank you. Whoever that sent, you look both good.
Brenda, thank you.
Brenda, okay, thank you. Sometimes I see that information, but I don't see who sent it. This is interesting. That was different last time, so I don't know what I did today. Okay, our topic today is self-love for body, mind, and soul.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And where would you like to start, Klarna?
Vincent, you have a really wonderful scientific, almost scientific background. And you wanted to talk about the mind stuff, the mindset towards the self-love thing.
Yeah, thanks, Klarna. I guess it's a more theoretical distinction to share with people. And it comes from internal dialogue, and having caught myself no longer speaking to myself in a way that was detrimental to my own well-being. And it happened when I had ironed a shirt and I went to place it back into my wardrobe, and it missed the bar, and it fell, and it crumpled. And the most strange but truly wonderful thing happened in that moment, Klarna. Somewhere from behind me, and it felt like maybe like 30 meters away, I heard this voice scolding me. And the word it used, it called me something. And it sounds a lot like hunt. If you can fill in the gaps. And it was you filling in the gaps. And what was incredible for me, Klarna, in that moment, was I realized that in the past, this was a consistent, ongoing internal dialogue that I had all day long. I was berating myself, and how I got over this was like this. I realized that I actually had a bully in my head. That voice was a bully, like a playground bully. And I decided it was no longer acceptable to give oxygen, light, attention to that bully. And in that moment of discovering that, I chose to no longer allow myself to have that type of communication existing between my ears. And it was only in putting back that shirt, it falling, and then hearing that voice from the past that I realized how far I'd come in eliminating that internal dialogue, which was very negative and very damaging. And that also it was something that had been with me consistently throughout most of my life, was this really negative internal dialogue. And I wanted to share this because I think we all have that internal bully, and in distinguishing that I wasn't the bully, it was another part of me, enabled me to let it go. And also just to identify when I'm listening to this negative, critical voice, I've been able to give it a form, which has enabled me to like detach from it and understand that this isn't me, isn't my higher self, which is communicating to me. It's a lower self, one that's based in pain and suffering. And what I understood was it's not helping me. It's not a very loving way to communicate with yourself. And if it was towards you or anybody listening, I'd be fuming with that voice if it addressed you guys the way it was addressing me. So I was able to get the understanding that internal dialogue that criticizes isn't me. It's a part of me, but I don't need to give it attention. I don't need to listen to it. And then since then, the quality of the experience I have between my ears has increased because there's less criticism, there's less hate, there's less harm being done, and it's just a more pleasant experience to be in my head without that bully.
Yeah, that's so true. By the way, I just saw we are really upside down. Not really upside down, but on the side. I just looked on my computer at the side. So it's a little bit interesting. You need to
I probably look like I'm hanging from bars or something.
So, but
That
what you just said, I have something to add, a little story. So about 2 days ago, my daily practice is, one part of it is meditation. And sometimes my mind wants to keep me from meditating or from doing new things, because our mind doesn't like change so much. And I'm really on the path of change right now. And a thought came across everything I wanted to not think. And then I started myself talking. It was really funny. I had to laugh out loud because I heard myself, my one voice to my mind saying, "Mind, shut up now. I want to do this change, and I cannot have your negative thoughts there."
I love that. You told your mind to shut up.
Exactly.
And how did that work out?
Yeah, it worked out. At least I was in a good mood and not fighting. So because the resistance does not work as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Again, it's a similar story. It's like it's having that separation from the voice in your head that's telling me now, Vincent, you're boring people. Why would they watch you on Facebook? You've got nothing of value to say, blah, blah, blah. It's just this voice. It's like it just goes around in circles, and I can ignore it. Even though it's there, I can just accept that it's there and then choose to just stay in my heart and just keep enjoying the show.
Yes, and we keep enjoying the show even though we are somehow turned around.
Yeah. Indeed.
Oh, yeah. So, what else do we have to say, my dear?
Well, we want to talk about mind, body, and soul. And as you're the sexologist, body worker extraordinaire, what would you like to share, Kana?
Yeah, of course, a big part of self-love is the physical self-love. Masturbation, so to speak, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important things when it comes to sexuality, because you need to know your body first, your own body, and how to please yourself before you can tell a partner what you like or what they should do, because they don't know. They're just maybe fumbling around and trying to do something right, especially when this is a male and female partnership, because we are totally different. So it's all about yourself first. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, there's so much shame attached to masturbating in our society, but when I boil it down, I just think of it as like a very pleasant, pleasurable, exciting, wonderful thing you do with yourself. You know, really, in a way, no different from any other pleasurable activity. But we do have a culture that disapproves, which is an odd thing, because, you know, if I was to disapprove of you doing something that made you feel fantastic and gave you great pleasure, but harmed nobody, cost no other person anything at all, it would seem quite odd. You might have a thing for steaks, let's say sizzling hot steaks, and they give you great joy and pleasure. And then I'm saying to you, stop, don't do that, it's disgusting. It would seem so odd. But when it comes to masturbation, we don't have freedom around this part of the human experience.
Yeah.
So thank you for I know it's very important to you, Kana, to share the liberating aspect of masturbation and how it can help people.
Yeah, it's really, really, really important. I now have an online group running with some women, and what they got out of this is really amazing. So I heard things that they are now able to socialize way better than before. So
wow,
this is one
from
thing.
the
So
practice,
it's not only in a sexual way, and then they see that their self-value in a totally different way. So that they can articulate more what they want from their partners and not just put on a show for the partner, but do it for themselves. And this is the most important thing. And the whole story is not only important for sexuality or for arousal purposes, but also to love your body in the way in the way of the body image. Is a lot of people, especially women, don't have a good image of their bodies due to advertisement where you all see those nice slim girls. And
for now, next couple of years, it'll be big round. Well, it's big round ones now, and then it changes and fluctuates. Yeah.
Yes, and
All
so
according to fashion.
It's so important to learn to love your own body, no matter how it looks like, because everything is good. We got that body for a reason, because it's perfect.
Yeah, and I also get, when you connect to that self-loving, it has impacts beyond just the physical pleasure. Exactly. Perhaps in your choices of exercise and keeping yourself fit and healthy, and in your diet, and just all-round practice, because there is that increase in the sense of value and appreciation that you have for yourself, rather than perhaps an idea of like disgust or shame, or whatever's been programmed into you through the various different influences that have such a negative effect on how we consider ourselves.
Absolutely. And there are different methods or ways for self-love, because every person is different. So what are you doing, Vincent? I don't mean now the sexual self-love, that could be one part of it, but what else is it? How do you
Number
love
one thing
yourself?
is running.
Pardon? Running.
Yeah, it's something I don't naturally want to do, because it's wet and damp here back in the UK. It was quite different running on the beach in Ibiza a couple of weeks ago, but it's an act where, when I'm doing it, I really feel that I've overcome a resistance to not wanting to do it, and it's an investment in my long-term health and vitality. So it really feels like I'm being super kind and loving towards myself in getting over that resistance and doing something which initially is unpleasant, because it's wet and cold and crappy, but after a while it really feels fantastic. And then, as most people know, when you have a good workout, you buzz off of the feeling of it. So that would be the one thing I think I'm really making strides, because I don't know if you guys know this, but the number one activity you can partake in to increase the length of your life is running. No other activity has a bigger impact on your overall health than running. So to me, that's something that that's how I'm self-loving. Yeah. And something I want to share, Kana, I'm just feeling this. It's like, it feels like there's a selfishness about the term, like self-love, and I don't know where it comes from, but it really, it feels like a block where it's like I'm all about me. This is all about, it's mine. And it's an odd thing, because what I know is the healthier and the more vital and the happier I am with myself, that impacts the people around me positively. But when I neglect myself, I shrink. I become less. I have less to give. I've got less energy. I've got less vitality. I'm stingy. I'm not as generous. So it's almost like self-love is as an act of abundance for all. And if we're all in this place of feeling great value and love and appreciation for ourselves, the way we are with everybody else is positive.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a shame that self-love has this connotation where it's all about self, but it's not. It's about the all.
I would even go so far, and I said it before, for me, self-love and yourself first. And because if there is a saying, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Love this saying.
And it doesn't matter if it's a mama or a mother or
mama or mama, or
doesn't matter. Yeah. So if I'm not well, I cannot do anybody well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is
That's right.
why I'm looking first at myself. And this is something I really learned in the last few years only, because I used to work hard all the time. I was raised like that. You have to work to get to make your money, and you have to deliver stuff. And now I'm only now I'm learning that it needs to start from within myself. So whenever I get overwhelmed nowadays, which still is going to happen from time to time, or happens from time to time, then I think, okay, stop now. Sit down, sit with this, and do
Yeah.
something totally different. Don't go
Yeah.
on with fighting through it like I did it before. So
Yeah.
maybe I love to go out into nature. I sit on my rocks and have a look in the sea, and I watch and listen to the waves clashing against the stones, for instance, or I go into the other direction where I can see and smell the flowers and the trees, and that brings me back to myself. And then I can go back to work.
Yeah. And I am assuming refreshed, revitalized,
Absolutely.
switched on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, just all around performing better. Yeah.
And I saw something in, I'm looking on my computer now. Sorry, Jane, I missed it at the right point, so I don't know exactly what you are referring to, but I'm just reading it now. She says, I did a similar thing with depression. I used to say my depression, I gave it a lot of energy, mainly negative, as I was fighting it. So I just called it depression, separated it from me, changed my internal dialogue. I gained acceptance and thus positivity. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. You know what I'm getting, Clara, is that if I am resisting something, like maybe like my internal dialogue, that takes energy. It takes focus and it takes attention. And where that's going to me is on something that I might describe as a negative. And I'd rather just accept it and then focus on something that I consider a positive.
Yeah.
And put my attention, my focus, my energy there. And what I find is what I'm ignoring tends to self-organize and just take care of itself without my attention. But if I go down into a feeling of it, like a negative thought process, I'm bringing light and oxygen and air and everything it needs to expand and grow. Whereas if I can just be with, there it is, it's a thing and it's existing, I don't need to give it attention. I can just almost leave it and then bring myself to either into my heart space or into another part of my mind which wants to think about something, usually based in the future, that's exciting. Whatever's happening for me disappears or organizes itself. And that's to me, that's a loving act. I don't want to, it's a bit like having a wound. I don't want to start poking it, playing with it, and giving it all my attention. I'd rather relate to the rest of my body that's in perfect order, rather than just focus on the wound. And I wonder, are we spending a lot of time focusing on pain and the things that are negative? Mm-hmm. And the antidote is actually looking at accepting what's going on, but then having my focus and attention elsewhere. It's a bit like in coaching at Sage. We got taught, when you get to when you work with a Sage coach, you think you've got problems, they're going to create even bigger problems for you, but they're beautiful problems and they're wonderful, exciting problems. And all the other complaints that you've had in the past will just take care of themselves, because you've got this whole new area of interest and concern to focus on.
Okay, Brenda agrees about the running. And thank you, Ivona, for the assurance. That's
Hi, Ivona.
Ivona. Okay. Then she says, self-love can be a huge leap for some. So I usually start with getting people to think of what they like about themselves first. Yes, that's cool. That's a good
And again,
idea.
I love she's that's so wise, because the focus is on the positive,
Yeah.
looking at what is working, look at what is great, and then bring a counterbalance to maybe the focus of what's deemed to be negative.
Hi,
It's
Flor.
great.
Haha. And hi, Sharon.
Kisses for you, Ivana.
Sharon sends hearts, and Flor says conscious breathing helps to go back into the heart and the light within. That's so true.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I learned to breathe while I was in
And
Ibiza,
yeah.
which was really wonderful. And I learned to do alternate nostril breathing,
What happens
which was
now?
also great. Klarna, I don't know if you can hear me, but I've lost the signal. Hi, Andrew. Good to see you, my gorgeous friend. Klarna,
Vincent,
I don't know if you've got me there.
Can you say, Vincent? Can you say that again? That was like one word here, one sound there.
I was just asking if you could hear me, because I'd lost the signal, but we seem to be back.
Okay, now you're back.
Hi, Sharon. Good to see you too. Okay, Klarna, so we've covered the mind.
Yeah.
Self-love in the mind, self-love in the body, and that just leaves the self-love in the soul.
Yeah, the soul we had a little bit with being in nature. And what Flor says, that's the good key word there, with the breathing somehow, that also brings me to the soul. If you sit there and breathe and just be with yourself, or whatever way you choose to meditate, that brings you to your soul, which is nothing else than yourself, in my opinion.
I find with the breathing, it brings me into, I focus on my heart space.
Yeah.
And there's no conflict going on in there.
Yeah.
That's just emanating pure love. So when I come into that space through breathing, I get that sense of calm. Yeah. I was sharing with a vicar actually yesterday this wonderful distinction that I got from a friend who's on the Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, which is full of amazing wisdom. It's one of the most incredible programs to help people with healing, but also for us who aren't involved in it to get a real deep understanding about what affects us in life in all sorts of ways. And one of the distinctions that they have is this idea of God of your understanding. And I love that, because there are people who are atheists or agnostics. And often if I refer to God, then it comes loaded with all these ideas of, the white guy who looks like Santa Claus sat on a cloud. And actually people can experience what we might consider God in nature or in science or in any area that they like. And for me, they say when I'm running in nature. And to me, that's an experience of being in God's space, you might call it, but also just feeling that sense of connection to the universe, to the wonder of life. And that's a spiritual experience. And it does seem to me that as a act of self-love, connecting to my spirituality is a profound act of self-love. And when I think of self, I mean, that's like massively expansive self, rather than just ego and in my head self. So just things like whatever it is that has you feel that sense of connection and wonder, which could be walking on the beach, watching a sunset, walking the dog, mowing the lawn, cutting flowers, whatever it is that gets you in that space is a beautiful thing. Yes. And a gift to yourself. Yeah. But something doesn't seem to be so prevalent in society as a necessity for humanity. For us as a species, we are, I believe, whether we like it or not, a spiritual species. We're a conscious species. And the more we can connect to that, the more enriched we become.
Yes, absolutely.
Hallelujah.
This is part of our philosophy, and this is also something we bring into our retreat. which we don't want to miss to offer you again and again and again.
And again. Well, what I'd like is the people who are on, the ladies who are on the line, come and join us in person, and we get to really open this stuff up and expand it, and share the tools that we've learned and we love to help them get into their heart space and their spirituality and enjoying their body and having a freer mind.
Yes, and it will take place in July, from the 5th of July until the 7th in South England.
It's like somewhere just outside London.
Yes, and if it makes you a little bit curious, then call Vincent or myself and let's talk about and see if it's a fit for you.
That'd be lovely. And we'll be back here next Tuesday.
Exactly.
And each Tuesday, sharing from our hearts what we love and what we like and what we want to share with the world. Yeah. And so thanks for coming on, guys.
And I hope next time we will be in the right format. I see us in the right format in front here of my iPhone.
Me too. It seems fine.
But it is not. But it is not, Vincent. I see it on my computer.
Oh right.
Okay. Thanks. Hope to see you again next week. Bye bye.
And if you can watch the video again, guys, later on if you joined late.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Bye.
Brenda, love to see you. Flo, love to see you.
Thanks
Mark,
for the
love to see you. DJ, yeah. Ivona, love to see you. And catch you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.